Maniam, EDCA, which is the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which has just been very recently signed between the Philippines and the United States, and President Obama just very recently just endorsed that. In fact, the thing was just signed about like 3 hours before he arrived in Manila. And this is actually a 10-year agreement. And this 10-year agreement allows the United States to come back and establish itself, or re-establish itself at Subic Bay, which used to be one of the largest naval U.S. bases in the world. They left in 1992 after the Philippines had said that there will be no more military bases, foreign military bases on their soil in 1991. And so since 92, there were no American bases in the ASEAN area. But the United States has bases in Guam, and of course, we know that also in South Korea. But to have one in the Philippines has always been an issue among the Filipinos themselves, ever since they became independent, I think, in 1947. And so there is a very strong faction, both in government and out there among the public in the Philippines, about the role of the United States, especially the military of the United States in this part of the world. But ever since 1992, the intention to turn Subic Bay into a Filipino modernized military machine to be put into place didn't quite work out the way that they had wanted. And they wanted it to be actually the Subic Bay to be a progressive, flourishing free port zone, an opportunity to showcase the Philippine military sophistication as part of the Filipino military modernization program. This didn't quite work out the way they wanted it to. And so with today's problems taking place in the South China Sea, which is what we talked about very much today. In the South China Sea, there have been various claims to the islands which are found there, principally the Spratly Islands, dead center of the South China Sea, and the Paracel Islands closer to Vietnam. So there is an ongoing show of force which is going on at the Paracel Islands. The China claims the whole lot of islands belong to them. It is very near the border, the maritime border between China and Vietnam. And they have set a mobile oil rig established over there, surrounded it with a lot of warships and so on, so nobody could get to it. And they have gone on to explore oil under the seabed. And of course, Vietnam immediately sends its boats over there. Probably they cannot match the Chinese boats, but they have been like each knocking into each other, and that kind of little bit of provocation going on just to show, I don't like the fact that you are here. This is mine. And the other side saying, no, 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 you stay away from it because this is mine. And just 48 hours ago, there was this nice big picture which has come out all over the international press about China using its boats and using water cannon against the Vietnamese boats. So it's not only in Malaysian streets that you get water cannons, but you get water cannons right out there between China and Vietnam. And we also know, we were to dig into the history of Vietnam-China relationships. Vietnam has actually beaten China twice in war. Once, long time ago, when the Chinese naval force tried to get into northern Vietnam, and they beat back this Chinese invading forces. This is before the steamships and so on. They just put huge bamboos coming out of the seabed, so that the Chinese boats, when they came in, they got stuck over there. Vietnam won. And more recently, in the 20th century, that there was a little bit of a skirmish and fight, and over land, and Vietnam emerged victorious on this one. So Vietnam has some a good track record in dealings with China and kept China, with whom it has a border, a land border, at bay. So it's an ongoing issue. Today it's Paracel. Yesterday it was something else, and tomorrow it may yet be something else. It's an ongoing thing between neighbors. That takes care of Vietnam. But in the case of the Philippines, there have been more push and shoves, especially in the Spratly Island area. And China has sent a number of boats to chase away the existing Filipino boats. In fact, Filipino wants to claim that particular area, and their base is a ship which doesn't move, but the Philippine government has placed itself in that ship, and they would send supply boats to the people who are on the ship there on a 24-hour basis. And these supply boats were prevented from reaching that base and were chased away by China. And this has caused a new kind of problem. As a consequence, again, in the last few days also, I believe, that the Philippines stopped a Chinese boat and found that there were turtles inside the boats, which were endangered species, and they said that, you can't do that, and arrested 11 crew members. As of now, the 11 crew members are in Filipino custody, and this, again, is seen as an act of provocation on the part of China and as an act of sovereignty on the part of Philippines, and so this Filipino and Vietnamese case are ongoing issues right now. Besides the claims by Brunei, Malaysia, and of course Philippines and Vietnam on the Spratly Islands, which are dead center in the middle of the South China Sea. So that's what was discussed today, this ongoing fun and games, and also the fact that just a few hours ago, on Sunday, yesterday, was the opening of the ASEAN Heads of State Summit in Myanmar. Well, that is going on in Nay Pyi Taw in Myanmar, where the foreign ministers of the ASEAN countries have gotten together and have said they have serious concerns over these fresh tensions in this area, and they want to urge restraint, avoid undermining peace and stability, and they brought back a document which was signed in 2002 between the whole of ASEAN and China. This is about 12 years ago. And that declaration on the code of conduct of parties in the South China Sea, which urges restraint, and if there is any kind of confusion or dispute, that they would sit and talk about it and not rattle their saber or use water cannons, I guess. And so this is what the ASEAN foreign ministers have declared even before, at the eve of the summit, which is ongoing right now as I speak. So while ASEAN is now talking about it, we will find out in the days to come what the collective approach is. Of course, countries like Vietnam and the Philippines are already involved in ongoing things which are, creating some waves. I'm using a euphemism, yes, but creating some waves over there. But the other countries cannot just take it for granted that nothing will happen. Historically, there have been some problems also between the largest country in ASEAN and China. And so everyone here has got a little bit of nervousness because many countries share a common border, either on land or in the sea. But for more than 2,000, maybe even 3,000 years, there has been intercourse which has been going on. There has been trade which has been going on, and people have been coming and going where the borders didn't exist. So it's very hard to even distinguish the people of Southeast Asia and the people from China and India. We're all one whole big family. So on one hand, we can say that this is actually a dispute among family members. But when you think in terms of if you have China on one side and India on one side, and in between you have 11 countries which form ASEAN. We're talking about more than 50% of the world's population. And I also found out just this very morning that, that ASEAN represents 600 million consumers from the middle income group, which is 1.5 times the size of the United States or Western Europe. So the economic base of ASEAN and the potential of it becoming wider and wider and bigger very fast is so strong that everybody will want to have ASEAN as a trading partner for many reasons. And this has been going on ever since the Second World War. You know, in the last 50, 60 years, this has been going on. And we are part of that development to boost ourselves. And here we are in a sea of calm where there is very little war, any fighting going on. Yes, we had a little bit on Timor-Leste sometime, and every now and again something will flare up somewhere here or there. But basically, for the last 60 over years, this region has seen a lot of tranquility and a lot of stability. And everybody now thinks that this is the place to come make your investments. And the 21st century, which has been dubbed as the Pacific century, for the whole of the Pacific. And we're trading not only across the Pacific, but also across the Indian Ocean, over India and to the West, that we are powerfully placed. The thing which we need most is stability, cooperation, and peace. And that is what ASEAN is all about.
旅人的香。